All right, so welcome to mod 3. Okay, so again, just kind of going over like remote life, Slack norming, as y'all have done in most cohorts. And I'm going to ask from you all also in this, so like feel free during this like intro, raise your hand if I ask questions. I don't know necessarily like some of your norms up until this point, and sometimes I think it's a little bit easier for me to kind of like norm with you all on what you're used to. So I might ask y'all and just like, what are you used to? What do you use the chat for and things like that, just so that I can make sure I'm on the same page with y'all and that y'all know kind of like what to expect from myself and Brian. As far as remote work goes, the Zoom links we'll try our best to get those all in the Google Calendar. I need to go through, obviously with like a little switch in instructional team, I have a little bit of like administrative work that I still need to kind of hop on and get through. So I'm gonna, today that's on my to-do list of just like going through, getting classes assigned to Brian and myself, and also making sure that the links for all of those lesson plans are in the calendar. So y'all will see those in the calendar. Also, what we will do, Brian and I will do, is we'll assign the classes to each other. So if you're looking at the calendar, let's say like authorization in Rails, if you see that I'm on here and there isn't a link, you also can go to the Slack, our backend channel, and I put that as the topic. So if you see like I'm teaching, just go to my room. We'll have the same rooms always. So those are pinned, but again, we will do our best to make sure that all of those Zoom links are in the calendar for you. Zoom fatigue. I put this in here because I feel like we could probably talk about it too, more so in this like Zoom classes expectations. I think Zoom fatigue is very real, and I imagine that all of y'all up until now, you're in mod 3, and I'm sure you all have experienced this. At the beginning of going remote, way back when, we made it a rule that everyone needed their cameras on, and then that just kind of got to be exhausting. And also like people have a lot going on at home, you all work from home. So I say that for 2 reasons. Like sometimes if there's a class or like if there's a topic that we really want you all to spend time exploring, there may be times that we don't do it as a class on Zoom. We might do some more like tutorial, or like, hey, go do this on your own, jump off of Zoom for a little bit and then come back at this hour, just because we know that Zoom fatigue is a true thing. I also say that because, at least for me, like sometimes when I'm on big classes, like I can't really focus very well when my camera's on. I, as an instructor, really love seeing people's faces, but I also want you all to know that I totally understand if you need to turn your camera off and just like sit, close your eyes, focus, whatever you need to do. I'm not scrolling through everyone's camera or everyone's videos to make sure that they're all on. And again, it's really fine if they're off. So take care of yourself. That's a real thing. Attendance, this should not be new to y'all. I have to still set up the automated attendance thread if you do not have class at that time, but y'all can expect, I think, can I see a head nod? Did you all do like the automated threads if you did not have class? Okay, I see a mix. So if we have class, there's going to be attendance is going to be taken 2 times a day, right? So 9 a.m. Mountain Time, 1 p.m. Mountain Time. If you have class, which usually at 9 a.m. you're going to have class, I'm responsible, the instructors are responsible for taking attendance. You don't have to do anything. If you all do not have class, if you have project work time, something like that, then we will get an automated message to post in your Slack channel about 10 minutes before 1 p.m. Mountain Time or 10 minutes before 9 a.m. Mountain Time. And if y'all just respond to that, there will be like a little prompt for you to respond to. So just respond to that within 5 minutes of the start of class. So either 1:05 Mountain Time, 9:05 Mountain Time. If you don't respond past 30 minutes, then you're considered absent for that chunk of the day. I'll also mention right now, I think I'll get to this eventually, or at some point, I'll get to it now. Chat. I see there's right now on my screen, I have 17 unread chats. Since I'm just one human talking right now and also trying to get through these slides, I will not be reading the chat. If something comes up that's like, hey, this is a question that like we're all really curious about, just have someone raise their hand. That's kind of what I'm looking at, like hands raised and also just my slide deck. So that would help me out. Sometimes when we have 2 instructors in a class, like that second instructor that's not the main person teaching will respond in that chat if questions are risen through that, but expect like, if I'm the only teacher, if Brian's the only teacher, try to get those questions voiced if they're not answered from the chat. Lawrence?
I just think the norms wise, I don't think our class really expects you to read the chat, and it tends to be mostly useless for you.
Cool, appreciate that. Thank you so much.
I'm in it.
All right, thanks, Lawrence. Cool, any questions about attendance? Cool, going forward with just like Zoom class expectations, again, raise your hands. I'll also, I think right now I've been using just your backend channel to just let you know, like, hey, here's where class is, here are the slides. Going forward, you can expect to like really focus on the code help channel during class. I know there's like a lot of notifications that y'all get during class, but anytime that we need to like send out resources for you or anything in regards to like something that you need for class, expect it to be in the code help channel. The announcements, or sorry, the backend channel will be mainly for announcements, things that we need to know from y'all, maybe surveys, things like that. So yeah, you can focus on the code help channel during class. What else do we have here? We'll record all the classes. Currently there isn't, if you look in the pinned links in your backend channel, 2103 backend channel, there's our Slack links, sorry, Slack links, geez. There's our Zoom links for classes, Brian and I, and there's also like a little section for the YouTube playlist. So once I upload this video, I'll be able to make a playlist. I can't make one yet, but I'll go ahead and link that playlist to your pinned, to the pinned section of your channel, so y'all can have access to where we're going to post all of the recorded videos for all of our lessons. All lessons will be recorded. Things like Gear Up, PD, that stuff will not be recorded. Check-ins. And then I think that this is not new to y'all, but we will be asking y'all to give us some feedback on our classes. Last mod was the very first time that I taught mod 3, and that was super helpful for me to just like go back and see how old classes were taught in the past, and to see like what students liked, what they didn't like, and then I'm able to better shift how I do my lessons. And I know I'm already taking some feedback from last inning to make some changes for upcoming lessons for y'all. So please get those done. I think that link does need to be updated, and that's also on my to-do list today, to get that link updated in all of your calendar events. But for today, you do not need to take any class surveys. Today is mostly, like I think Jeff said, we shouldn't be doing a syllabus day, but it's kind of syllabusy and also project kickoff. So not a huge day today. I think that's it. About it. 2103 code help, again, that's like where we're going to be putting anything like during class. We'll also put a thread there for the class topic. If there's ever a question that like you don't feel comfortable asking in class, or you feel like is a little off topic, or even if after the class ends, you're like, oh wait, I didn't ask that question, go ahead and put it into that thread, and Brian and I will come back and answer those questions at the end of class. Cool. Projects, fun. All right, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about viewing party. Viewing party is going to be your first project. We're going to kick that off at 1 p.m. Mountain Time. And that is going to be, I think this is different than any of your mods so far. It is going to be a group project, paired project, the way that your numbers are working out. So you'll be paired with somebody later today. We'll kick that off, and we'll also kind of do like a little brainstorming session as well with the last hour of our day. So we'll talk more about that later. Rails Engine is going to be a solo project, kicking it off at the end of week 2. And kind of the learning goal of Rails Engine, y'all will be building and exposing an internal API. Viewing party, y'all will be consuming an API, and just like a little transparency also there. In the past, mod 3, we used to have you all start with Rails Engine, and a lot of the feedback we were getting was like, okay, I'm building something, but what am I building? Like, why am I building this? And so that's why we created Viewing Party as a project that, again, we'll talk about it later, a project where you're going to be consuming an API. in building something so that you can see like, what is the purpose of an API? When you pull it in, what can you do with it? And then Rails engine, you're going to be building your own internal API. You're going to come back to active record a little bit. I hear that mod 2 is a little bit heavier active record than it has been in the past, but y'all will be coming back to writing queries using active record to expose some data. And then also we're going to provide you with a Postman test suite for that. You're still going to be expected to write your own test for Rails engine, but something that I really like about Rails engine is we've kind of like had it around long enough that all of us instructors have been able to kind of work on a test suite for y'all so that you can run your project against our test suite to just confirm that things are working. But yeah, again, still expecting y'all to write tests for everything. Consultancy is going to be your group project. Right here it says 7 to 8. It is going to be a big project. I think I like to keep it around 6. I feel like 8 is a lot. But y'all are going to, a lot of y'all, not everyone, will be on teams that are 7 to 8 people. So it's a really fun project where y'all are going to be able to pitch ideas, see some of your like exciting thoughts. And I think you probably all, before coming to Turing, were like, wouldn't it be cool if we had an app that, and now's your time. Now's your time to pitch those ideas, whatever you want to build. And y'all will be able to vote on pitches. And there will be some requirements that we're going to ask of y'all. One of them is, this is going to be the first time that we're going to ask y'all to create an app that has a service-oriented architecture, meaning y'all are going to have different applications. You'll have a backend service, you'll have a front-end service. Your front-end service is going to consume your backend service. And so you're going to see your applications talking to each other, which is super exciting. You're going to feel like a real developer if you don't already. And then weather sweater, I always call it sweater weather. I actually don't know why it's called weather sweater on the slide. That's your solo final project. And just like most solo projects, it's not a full week, but that one also you'll be exposing an API. The difference with this one than other mods is, and maybe things have changed and this has happened to y'all before, but we will be using that solo project. We'll kick it off on Friday of week 5, I believe. And the final assessment that's on Monday will use your solo project. So we're going to tell you like, hey, you need to, by Monday morning, you need to have up until this point finished. And then your final will build off of that final project. Your final assessment will build off of what we asked you to complete for that solo project. And we'll talk more about that later. Taya.
Will the project where we're creating an API that we will then consume, is that going to be in Ruby Rails, or is that going to be a different language?
Yeah, you act like that's consultancy. So you all are able to choose if you want to do it in a different language. That's going to be up to y'all. That'll be like a stretch goal for y'all. Like I said, we'll have a few requirements for y'all, and mainly it's that you have a service-oriented architecture, that you have, what are the other requirements? You're using some form of OAuth to be able to log in users. And really we have like very minimal expectations, and the rest is for you all to decide. So when you're on your team for consultancy, your team of 6, 7 people is like, yes, I want to use React for this front end service. Let's use React. So it's totally up to you all. Just make sure that everyone's on board. And that what I'm saying right now, that would be more of like a stretch goal. We're not expecting that, but y'all are more than welcome to do that.
Thanks.
Yeah, good question. All right, professional development. Y'all are going to meet with, can you tell me, have y'all worked with Ryan or Tracy? I saw a head nod.
Ryan.
What was that? Thanks, Alex. Ryan, cool. So yeah, I think y'all will meet with Ryan. When is it? I think it's Wednesday, to talk a little bit more about this. Yeah, I think y'all are gonna, Ryan's probably gonna drop a link just to kind of like check in before y'all do your discussion groups. I don't think this like discussion group is new to y'all. You've done homerooms before. Cool. So yeah, Ryan's gonna talk a little bit more about that. I'm not gonna really jump into that at this point. Other than like in mod 3, there definitely are a lot less PD sessions in terms of classes. There's more homerooms, and you'll have those every week, I believe, most every week, on Wednesdays between 1 and 2 Mountain Time. But we're really focusing mainly on these like bullet points that are on the slide right now: networking, interviewing, resumes, cover letters, job search strategies, negotiations, all of that. And Ryan will be available to help you all on that. And I'll also say, like, reach out to, like, I'm truly available to talk through that as well. So feel free to reach out to me if you want to talk job strategies, professional development. I love kind of hearing what people are interested in and what types of jobs they're looking for. I'm also available to kind of look over resumes, cover letters. I've been there as well, and I think it's, if you can get more eyes to look over things, that's great. Mine as well. Yeah, so career journals no longer. I think I said most of this. Cool. All right, great. Introductions. So this might take a little bit, and I think actually I want to do a little break before we do this. Just we've been going for not too long, I guess. But I also feel like I've been talking a lot. And during the break, I want y'all to think of how you want to answer this. So I want to change this. This was from last time. You can answer that if you want to. Something that I've been really focusing on is just like, we had a meeting, a back-end meeting, a few few weeks ago. And we were talking as a staff of just like, how do we manage our own stress? And it got me thinking, like, okay, staff is talking about how we manage our stress and how to lighten our load. And very rarely do we ever tell you all, like, hey, how are you all managing your stress? And very rarely have we like checked in and been like, are you doing okay? Like, this is a lot of work right now. So I think I want to change this to just like, how do you de-stress? Or like, what does self-care look like for you? And you can answer that in any way that you want, but just like, how do you de-stress? How do you take care of yourself, especially right now during turn? So let's go ahead and let's take a 5-minute break. Let's come back at 36. And when you come back, I'll post in your Slack channel. I'm about to say 37 because I'm taking longer. In the last message that I just put in your Slack, I just added a comment to the one that said we're starting at 10:10. And that just has everyone, I believe, if our attendance sheet is up to date, that has everyone listed there. And I tried to make sure I got everyone's preferred name. So please let me know if I didn't at any point, and we'll go in the order opposite. So starting with Zach Green, we'll start with you. Okay, well, we'll start with me and then I'll go to Zach Green. So see you now at 37. Goodbye.
Thank you, 37.
Cool. Okay, I want to talk a little bit more now about Mod 3 specific items. And I think coming into Mod 3, I even remember week 6 with y'all last inning, introing the new mod. We talked about like, okay, what have y'all heard? What do you know about Mod 3? What are you excited for? So kind of jumping into that idea, what is this slide? What do I have it say? Mod 3 is the start of where we get you to be job ready. This process will continue in Mod 4. Yeah, I think with Mod 3, I think there's like two parts to this. Two parts to job readiness. We have professional skills, and then you also have technical skills. And so Mod 3, we're really focusing a lot more on those professional skills. Like we talked about PD, you're gonna have a lot more time to work on that. You'll also notice on the calendar we have some different classes, such as like leak code activities, which we're gonna change up a little bit just to kind of get you ready for those interviews, and different code challenges you might see on the interview and on that job search. So yeah, this is the mod where, and I think I remember someone saying this last inning, week 6, that like, okay, what I've heard is this is the mod where we take mod 1, mod 2, take those basics of OOP, take that learning to follow a convention with a new framework, and take that like now knowledge of how to productively struggle and research, and let's put that all together, and let's go ahead and put you in mod 3 where you can put all of that together. So mod 3 is definitely the mod where I feel like you might have heard some mixed reviews of like, it's the hardest mod, or they kind of just like, instructors just let you do whatever you want, and not as much support, which like, yeah, kind of true. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. But I think that this is the mod where like, despite the challenge, I feel most people at the end of this mod truly feel like a developer at the end. And we say with mod 3 that at the end of this, if we say, hey, you're promoted to mod 4, you are then job ready. That's what we kind of like want the feeling at the end of mod 3 to feel like, hey, I'm ready to start applying. I feel confident that I can apply. And we want y'all to leave mod 3 with that confidence. That's the goal of this, is to feel job ready, be job ready at the end of this inning, at the end of this mod. Yeah, there's no one path to becoming a developer. I stopped when we were going through all of our intros just now to say like, it's so wild to me that like, y'all are here right now and y'all have come from such different backgrounds. And I think something that I've seen during my time as like a student and when I was an instructor, or just my time as an instructor here, that a lot of students will talk about their past experience, their past work experience, and see no value in it going forward. Like, oh, I worked as a server, or I worked as like a bartender or something, and like how could I market myself to get a job in software engineering? But all of these jobs that y'all have done prior to this, or any role that you've taken on, has skills that you can go ahead and kind of like maximize on and use those to kind of market yourselves. You've learned a bunch of skills when going through those different occupations. And it's also a time when like you don't need to limit yourself. Like just because you were in education prior to Turing doesn't mean you need to stay in like ed tech after Turing. And I think this is a cool mod where like, yeah, y'all are going through Turing, y'all have that on your resume. But this is like a fun mod to start differentiating yourself, especially with like consultancy projects, and maybe some of y'all are doing some of your own work. Like once you start learning a lot more of these skills that we're going to be talking about mainly in the first 2 weeks, like y'all learn a lot in these first 2 weeks. If y'all are starting to work on like other side projects, this is the time to kind of start differentiating yourself and start thinking about like what kind of path do you want to go down. And on top of that too, like y'all are learning very similar things while you're at Turing, but you all are not going to get the same job after Turing. So the job that you take after this is going to immediately start differentiating you. So that's kind of just like something to think about when going into the job search. I also say all of this to kind of just iterate, if it hasn't already been said to you, like your experience up until now is valid and it is important and you can use that. So just keep that in mind when y'all are going through mod 3 and as you're going through this job search. So mod 3, why is it difficult? Again, I think y'all probably have heard quite a bit from people that like really enjoyed mod 3 and some people that like maybe it was super challenging. But again, the hope is that at the end of this, y'all feel like that struggle that you had throughout mod 3 has really helped you to become a better developer and be the developer that is job ready now. Cue the awkward analogies. This was, I can't take credit for these analogies, but I'm going to go through them. I was not the one that made these slides. but I like the analogy, so I'm going to use it anyway. I'll let y'all read it, but pretty much like the analogy that we're using is, in order to create a strong tree, there needs to be some type of force on that tree. There needs to be some type of wind that allows it to strengthen during that time. And so we kind of think of y'all as our little trees. What do we call baby trees? Saplings? What am I thinking of? I saw a head nod, maybe. What is it?
Sapling.
Oh, sapling. He was right.
Sapling. Okay, cool. Great. That's what I thought. So yeah, y'all are little saplings. You're growing right now. You're definitely not baby saplings anymore. But kind of thinking of just like the Turing way. I know that we've like heard that title, that saying, that motto before of like the Turing way, teach things after people have struggled, or like only teach just so much and have everyone else kind of like figure it out on their own. And it's not just because we like seeing y'all struggle. That is not the case at all. It truly is coming from a lot of research that we have done and Jeff has done too, of kind of like creating this culture, creating this environment where we expose you to things that will challenge you. And we want you all to kind of like use that challenge to help you grow, help strengthen yourselves. And I guess like kind of like what it comes down to is we want y'all to be, how do I want to say it? We want y'all to be familiar with failure. Because really in the end, that like taking risks, taking chances, going down a route and saying like, oh, that wasn't the right thing to do, or feeling challenged and doing research on your own, like that is the stuff that will strengthen you into a better developer. And so we will be leaning on that strategy throughout month 3, and you might feel it a little bit more, you might feel the wind a little bit more in month 3 than you have in the past, because Brian and I won't be there the entire time. There are a lot less classes in month 3, and we talk a lot more at like higher level topics to kind of give you an introduction to ideas, but then a lot of it, that implementation will come down to you all. And so, yeah, we'll talk a little bit more just about like how y'all can support each other in that. But I want y'all to know that like we are doing this with a purpose. When it feels like we kind of like introduce something and then let you all fly or try to fly, it does come with reasoning behind it. And if there's ever any point where you're like, why are they doing this to us? Just ask us. Give us that feedback as well. All of that said, though, we are not trying to put y'all through a tornado. We're not trying to put these heavy winds on you and uproot your little tree saplings. So I think like, this is distracting. I'm going to change it to the next one and keep talking. I think like what I want to say with like all of this, talking about, okay, you're going to experience the winds. We really don't want to expose you to a tornado. Make sure that you all are able, I think like the biggest thing here is recognizing when you are in too much of a windstorm. And I think that can identify for you when you are in this like unproductive struggle, which I don't think that these terms are new to y'all. I think that we've probably been talking about this idea of like productive struggling and unproductive struggling quite often throughout your time at Turing. And one of the biggest things when it comes to being able to like be a good developer, be a good communicator, is being able to identify when you are in that unproductive struggle. And what I'll say to that is, I feel like this has always been true for me. If I'm ever like working on something and I'm like, shoot, maybe I'm in a productive struggle, I was. So like, if you ever feel that you are in an unproductive struggle, you probably are. And we want to kind of like help come up with strategies to, I guess, like avoid that. It's not unavoidable, but coming up with strategies to be able to like identify that you're in it, and then also be able to take some action. And this is like, y'all can read through all of this, but I think that the biggest thing for at least for me, when I'm like able to identify that I'm in unproductive struggle, is the moment where I say, I don't even know what my next step is, or I don't even know what question I have, or I don't even know where to start. So I think that like those questions that are coming through my head, maybe not the last one of like, I don't know where to start, because you want to try to break down problems. Like if you feel like you can't break down a problem any more than what you're already thinking about, then I think that's like a clue that you're in unproductive struggle. And I think that there's a lot of like prep work that y'all, not prep work, but just like, what's the word I'm looking for? Pre-work. I think that within your cohort, this is like a great place to kind of cultivate a culture that lets struggling be an okay thing, like that encourages that struggle. And so I think I think that comes with like your SLC reps and just like encouraging that vulnerability to be able to reach out before you get to that point of unproductive struggle is a really big thing. I think these are like all definitely a big skill that you all need to have before going into the workforce, just being able to identify it and take some steps to get out of it. And I think even just like having a list of what you can do, I think as a student, I would think of like, you have each other, you have upper mods, you have alumni, you have the code help channel, you also have me and Brian. So you have a lot of resources. And if it gets to a point where it truly is like, I don't even know what to do, then just contact us and say, hey, can we hop on a call? Like we want to help y'all through that. I think this is like such a time intensive school and time really matters here. And so we don't want y'all struggling on something for too long. And we also want to be aware when y'all are struggling and what we can do to help, so it doesn't get to that point of unproductive struggle where like you feel like you need to quit. Yeah, I think I already said this. We want to protect y'all from getting uprooted. Let us know, just like let us know ahead of time if you can, so we can kind of help prevent that. I think some people can take like a little bit more wind than others, and there's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, we would like to know if y'all are experiencing any of that. So that can be done through check-ins. It can be done through check-in one-on-ones, just like a Slack message really quick, class surveys. Yeah, we just need that feedback from you all. Okay, nature of the win in Mod 3. I think these like next few slides are a little repetitive. Let's see what we have here. Part of your pre-work was reading. We had like scanned in a book, Learning Fast and Slow, reading like a little insert there. And this is kind of like Turing's way, right? Like just allowing struggle to be able to learn a little bit more. And I would love to kind of open up to you all and just like, what did y'all take from that reading? Like what thoughts did you have after reading it? And I'll like I said, open up to y'all if you want to raise your hand if you have any thoughts on that reading to kind of bring up to class right now. I'd love to hear it from y'all. Lawrence?
I'm not like, bleh, sorry, brain freeze. There was sometimes in Mod 2 especially where I felt the struggle part and I found a answer, but there wasn't this feeling of knowing how good my answer was and whether my answer was worth the struggle I had, like was a productive answer. So I don't know if there's a, I look at what other people do to try and see what they've done, but in those cases, there's so many different outcomes. I'm just not sure how to find out if I've got the right answer from the struggle.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up, because I think that's honestly like one of the biggest things that, like one of the biggest struggles within Mod 3 is this idea of what is the right answer, because oftentimes there's different ways to do something, and there's pros and cons to doing it different ways. But I think one thing that like we'll kind of ask of you too is when you come to project check-ins or project evals or anything like that, where or even independent challenges, like leave a comment on an independent challenge or come to the project check-in with that question in mind of like, hey, this was my design decision. this is why I think it's okay. This is why I'm a little concerned about it. What do you think? And so kind of like coming prepared to those things with those questions. And we also aren't going to say like, this is the right answer. This is exactly what you need to do. But we can also help brainstorm. Oh yeah, that is a pro, but also have you thought about this? Like, what if you did, what would you do in this scenario? So yeah, I think that is definitely a big struggle of Mod 3. And I do know that was kind of mentioned in that reading. I think even like one thing that I kind of think about when you bring that up, Lawrence, too, is like, even just struggling to come up with an answer, even if it like leads down a different path that you weren't expecting, or it leads down something that like isn't what you wanted. I think that still helps to be able to like get some form of clarity of, okay, this is what I tried, that led me down this path, so let me go ahead back to the drawing board. Like you have at least learned something from that scenario. So yeah, definitely a tough spot to be in. There are no right answers, so I can't necessarily answer your question right now of how to know if it's right or wrong. Yeah, I like that. Taya?
I really appreciated the studies that were saying like your current performance is not indicative of the strength of what you've learned or what you're learning. Like if it feels easy, it probably won't stick. And if you're not doing well, that doesn't mean that you haven't learned. So that was a nice little reminder and pick me up for if you're not feeling good about things.
Yeah, I think of the like, especially coming from a public school background of like teaching to the test. And it's like, okay, we can teach to the unit test. And then when it comes down to state testing, it's like, did we actually perform well, or did we just like teach these things really quickly so that we could get it all, like get like quick wins? Or just even like state testing in general. This is obviously, I have a lot of feelings about public school education. But yeah, Alex?
Yeah, I had mixed feelings while reading the article.
Love it.
On one hand, which I wasn't expecting after I read the article, when I was like neck deep in unproductive struggle, which I find myself in often, and anybody that I've worked with can attest to that. I usually just sit there cursing and screaming at my laptop. I kept thinking to myself like, well, I'm just going to leave it alone because maybe I've learned something that I wasn't aware of or something like that. And then on the other hand, while reading it, I kept thinking to myself, like, I wonder if they included like a time crunch and the anxiety that it produces, and whether or not you can learn when you're like under a massive amount of stress and how that impacts it and all of that stuff. And so, yeah, I as I was reading it, I was definitely sucked into it, and I thought it was a really interesting article, and actually had like emotions going up and down the entire time, because I was like, this is really cool and gives me hope, and also I'm furious. Like it was a good article.
Yeah, that's a great point to bring up too, because y'all are in like a little bit of a time crunch here. Things move quickly at Turing, and we like put the pressure on you to learn things quickly still, but we still are trying to get you to struggle. So there is that like, where can we get to that happy medium? And also that, like, I feel like I keep saying it, but just like, we need that feedback. Like, keep letting us know, like, if you don't feel like you're able. I think one of the biggest things is like getting, like, it's okay to struggle as long as you have some form of resolve at the end. And so we want to make sure that like you can get to some form of resolve, or say like, oh, okay, I understand why I did that, or getting an answer there, which doesn't always happen when you're on a time crunch. So I totally get where you're coming from with that. Cool, thanks for sharing that. Great, I think the next, let's see real quick. Yeah, okay, yeah, so like what students struggle with, we kind of have talked about this. There's, like I said, less classes in Mod 3. These are some of the like things that I've kind of changed as we've gone through, or just since last mod, of like experiencing what other students have been struggling with. Authentication, authorization is a new concept that we'll introduce this week. Active record is something y'all have played around with. It's still here. It's still gonna be here. So that's always, I think, something that like it is a tough thing to learn. And I think it's gotten a little bit easier since, or a little bit better since we've introduced it more so in mod 2 than in mod 3. But still, it's definitely kind of a point of struggle for a lot of students, and that's okay. We'll talk a lot about refactoring patterns, and similar to how like we'll still be working in this MVC design pattern, but we're going to add a little bit more design patterns on top of that when we talk about consuming and creating APIs. So just now we have more information coming into this like design decisions and testing. Y'all have tested up until now, but now we're testing our APIs. And I put this last one here. This is the one that I just added in. I mentioned like we're going to try and help y'all with interviews and working through some code challenges. And I think that I've realized, which is why we're going to change it up this mod a little bit, that this has been a tough part of just like, okay, you have an hour to do this code challenge, go ahead and see what you can do. And I know we've done independent challenges in the past, but I have seen this last mod that this is something that like has been quite challenging. And so I think that like in extra time, or like anything that like if y'all have PD time that you're working to prep for, or just like get some materials together to practice for the interview, job prep and whatnot, I think that like code challenge is a great thing to add to your list of things to practice. We'll also do them in class. Making decisions, this kind of goes back to Lawrence. You mentioned like what is the right answer. Again, this is like probably the biggest thing that I see students struggle with, not just in mod 3, but I would say more so in mod 3, because there's a lot more open-endedness to everything that y'all are going to be working on. I think that also kind of leads to, I use this term, I don't know if anyone else has used it or has heard of it, or if I made it up, I'm unsure. But I say that sometimes I'm in like code paralysis when I've made like so many decisions that have led me down the wrong, like it feels like the wrong path every time. And then I just get to a point where I'm like, I cannot write any more code because I just like, I'm too scared to fail and I don't want to go through that process again. So I think that like having the right answer and feeling like you need to have the right answer all the time can lead to code paralysis, when it's like, okay, you failed a few times, let's like choose one thing and let's like see how far that can take you. Like it's okay if we come back to refactor something, you don't need to have the right answer all the time. And we'll talk through that at check-ins, at project evals, ask us for feedback. We can definitely talk through like a better approach to things. But sometimes I see people not even wanting to get started until they like have that class that tells them exactly how to do it. The likelihood of us telling you exactly how to do it in class is slim. So try it on your own, ask questions as you go. Lawrence?
I think even more than the right answer, I just couldn't tell if I had a good answer.
Yeah.
Like it would work, but I didn't know. We had the thing where we had to apply discounts, and I could apply it, but I was using Ruby to apply it, and I didn't know, is that right? They told us to use active Rails all the time before now, and it's supposed to be slower to throw Ruby in here. And I just, yeah. So being able to analyze, know what a good answer looks like, I think I'm not sure of that a lot of the time.
Yeah, and I think that's like a time when y'all can kind of reach out to each other and reach out to us as well and ask for that feedback. That's a great example of when to do that. I think the other big thing that we put on here, oh, I didn't realize this was on here. Mid-mod is not the same as the final assessment. I think in previous mods, they've been like an example of what the final assessment will be like. I would say the mid-mod now is more of an example of what you've learned up until that point. And your independent challenges will also, you don't have as many as you did in mod 1 or mod 2, I believe. Maybe you have as many as you did in 2. I think we have 2 independent challenges. But yeah, independent challenges, I would honestly say, and I'll say this like after or before the last independent challenge, it has kind of freaked people out in the past. The last independent challenge that we have is usually harder than the final assessment. So I'll say that now. I'll also remind y'all once you do that final independent challenge, but it is meant to be a true challenge. And we'll talk more about that when those times come. And group work, last thing on here, y'all are gonna have a big group with consultancy. So 6 or 7 people. Communication has been like another thing that people have struggled with. Any questions? I feel like I have like a few more slides. We're almost done. Is there anything else that people have questions on right now? Okay. Also, this just popped into my head, and it's not necessarily, doesn't necessarily go with the slide, but I remembered that I wanted to say it, so I'm going to say it now. Last mod, there were like a few instances that happened, I think, end of week 5, week 6, where I didn't realize that people had were like in the middle of job interviews and working on code challenges for those jobs, and some people were like, I noticed, were kind of sacrificing the time that they were spending on those code challenges for jobs and working on the Turing projects. And I want to say, like, if you find yourself in a situation where you are in the middle of an interview process, like the whole goal of Turing is to get a job after this. So if you're in the middle of an interview process and they give you a code challenge and it coincides or conflicts with a project that we've given you, communicate with us. Talk to us about that. We can work around it, but I don't want you all to like I don't want you to put your like job opportunity at risk of completing a Turing project. Okay, so I said it. Hope y'all heard it. Let me know if that comes up. Okay. What time is it? Okay, I'm going to run through this and then we're going to end early and give you some time back. So success in mod 3. This is kind of just like going over learning goals. I think y'all probably have read through this if you took a look, or I think we even took a look at them last inning. If you take a look at just like success in mod 3 on the mod 3 page, it talks about the learning goals of this module. So professional skills, obviously with PD, building APIs, consuming APIs, performance and optimization. That'll come back to the like refactoring design patterns, advanced Rails topics. We're going to get into like a lot of like specific Rails topics. And sometimes I kind of like hesitate in doing that because it's not guaranteed that y'all are going to get Rails jobs after this. So a lot of times we'll like present things to you, just like we have already, present advanced Rails topics to y'all, but those can always be carried over to other frameworks, other languages, and then still going with object-oriented programming. Okay, what can you do if things get difficult? Use each other. I think y'all, like, I don't know, I've only sat in with y'all for this last 2 hours, and I feel like y'all have some like good communication between the two. Why do I keep saying that? Between the 26 of y'all, and utilize each other, talk to each other, use the code help channel, be vulnerable with each other, talk about like wins and failures also. Make sure like you're utilizing the homeroom with PD and talking about like what your current job search is like. And I think I'm just gonna like talk through all these points at once, but now I just lost my place. No, I'm gonna focus my, okay. What do we have here? What you can expect from us? Yeah, I think like this is probably what all of your instructors have communicated to y'all so far. I think the one thing that I really want to pull out from this is, yes, your goal with Turing is to get a job at the end of this. Y'all came here to kind of change your occupational trajectory, and we want that for you. I am a firm believer that like you can't do your best unless you're taking care of yourself. So let us know if y'all need anything. We're gonna do check-ins, I think similar to how y'all did it in mod 2, squishies, maybe you called them one-on-ones, and utilize those. Like, let us know, even if you don't feel comfortable with like getting onto a call with us, then just like we can schedule a time and we can do like a Slack conversation. That's also fine too. But I just want to, I know I speak for Brian too when I say like your mental health and like knowing what is going on in your life, like that's super important to us, and we really want to make sure that like y'all are putting you first. And so let us know how we can support you in that. And kind of like along those lines, if anything comes up, DM both of us, or if you even if you like have technical questions too. If you feel like it'd benefit the whole cohort, put it in the code help channel. But if it's just something to kind of let us instructors know, put us both on it just so that we're both kind of aware of what's going on. And yeah, we're all experimenting. I don't know that I've necessarily said this in this long kickoff that we have right now, but I really love Mod 3 because I feel like it challenges me a lot too. Like once you all get to consultancy, y'all are going to go in different directions that like I probably have not tried out some of the technologies that you're interested in using. So being able to be a project manager on your team and hear like what are the struggles you're having, or like being able to jump in with y'all and like play around with things as well. It's super fun for me to learn. So y'all are experimenting, we're coming along for the ride as well. And yeah, so utilize us in that way. I will show right now, just like as far as check-ins go, the way that we have it set up, and maybe this is similar to how y'all have set it up before. I will randomly, I think I only put these on the calendar for week 1 and week 2 so far, and Brian will do the same when he gets back. But I've put like actual calendar events in the calendar. So if you see like make squishies, there's an option there to go ahead and take a look at this sign up sheet. And when you get to the sign up sheet, find like the day that you're looking at. So Thursday, July 8th was the day that I had my squishies assigned, and you can go ahead and like sign up for a slot there. I have one the next week for 11 to 12 on the 13th. So if you wanted to sign up for that, go to Tuesday, July 13th. Hi Joe, and sign up for one there. Okay, and I'll kind of like notify y'all when I put more time on the calendar, but I like to do it kind of as I go throughout the week, just so that I can be sure that I am like making the time for other meetings that I have, but I will make sure to get at least 1 hour slot each week on there for anyone, and Brian will do the same. Okay. Yeah, make sure y'all are reaching out with each other, utilize study halls. And I think, yeah, just encouraging each other. I can think back to my time at Turing as a student in Mod 2. I struggled a lot in Mod 2. And I don't think it was until we had a cohort retro where like one person just said how much they were struggling. And in my head, I was like, that person has it all together. They know what they're doing. And that just like being able to kind of have this vulnerable environment where y'all can just say like, hey, I'm struggling. I need help right now. I'm not really okay. Just like check in on each other, use your accountability buddies, which reminds me, if you do not have an accountability buddy, check out the code help channel. I just put like a little message there for y'all to let me know if you need one, and I'll match you up in a little bit once I get those responses back. Cool. I think I kind of mentioned all of this. Yeah, be yourself, think out loud, ask questions during class, ask questions in Slack, take risks. I think that the hardest thing for me to learn on the job was how to ask questions. And I think y'all are at more of an advantage than I was, having not gone through this program remote as a student. Like y'all right now are relying on your computer, you're relying on Slack to talk to each other. And I didn't. And it was really hard for me to learn how to formulate questions and be comfortable hitting the send button, and practice that right now. Practice it. I think that is huge to feel comfortable with that. Cool. I think that's pretty much all I have for y'all. And I would like to open it up if y'all have any questions. Things that we did not go over, things that you're still thinking about. Thanks for hanging on for these 2 hours. All right, y'all, I'll go ahead and give you 15 minutes back. We'll meet in my room at 1 o'clock for project kickoff, and I'll talk through kind of how we're going to kick off the project at 1 o'clock. But take a little break, see you at 1 o'clock.